While everyone was eating, my father said loudly, "Blood matters. It always has." The laughter around the grill died down. My daughter moved closer to me. My mother put down her glass and uttered a single sentence, causing my father to slam his hand on the table. While everyone was eating, my father said loudly, "Blood matters. It always has." The laughter around the grill died down like someone had turned a switch. My daughter Emma stopped chasing bubbles in the yard and came straight to me, pressing against my leg without saying a word. My husband Daniel looked up from his plate but didn't speak. My mother set her glass down carefully and said, "Frank, not today." That was enough to make my father slam his hand on the table so hard the condiments jumped. It was supposed to be a simple 4th of July cookout. My parents' backyard, my cousin Mark flipping burgers, kids running through sprinklers. I almost didn't come this year. Daniel told me we didn't have to, but a part of me kept hoping things would shift. That maybe time had softened him. It hadn't. My father never forgave me for marrying Daniel. He never said it outright at first. Instead he asked questions that weren't really questions. Where is Daniel's family from? What does his last name even mean? Are you sure about this? When I got pregnant, he suggested we wait before telling people. He said some things are better confirmed. Confirmed. Emma is 5 now. She has Daniel's dark hair and my eyes. She calls my father Grandpa even though he rarely answers. He stood up from the table and looked directly at Daniel. A man should know where he comes from. And where his children come from. No one spoke. I felt every pair of eyes move between us. Daniel wiped his hands on a napkin. "Emma is your granddaughter." My father gave a short laugh. "That depends." I had heard versions of this before, but never in front of everyone. Usually it was a quiet comment in the garage. Or a remark about how technology exists for a reason. He once mailed me an article about paternity fraud without a return address. But this was different. Public. Intentional. Emma tugged on my shorts. "Mom, what does that mean?" Before I could answer, my mother stood up. She had been quiet for years. Careful. Managing him like a storm you learn to predict. But something about today was different. She said, "Frank, you need to tell them what you did." The yard went completely silent. Even the kids stopped yelling. My father turned toward her slowly. "You want to do this now?" "Yes," she said. "Right now." I felt my stomach drop. This was not the script I expected. I thought this would be another attack on Daniel. Another accusation thrown into the air for us to carry home. Instead, my mother looked at me and said, "Julia, he knows the truth." I didn't understand what she meant. Not yet. My father's face changed in a way I had never seen before. Not anger. Something tighter. He looked at Emma. Then at Daniel. Then at me. And he said, "You really think she's the only one who doesn't belong?" For a second I honestly thought I misheard him. "You really think she's the only one who doesn't belong?" Daniel stood up slowly. "What is that supposed to mean?" My father didn't answer him. He kept looking at me like he had been waiting years for this exact moment. Around us, paper plates sagged in people's hands. My cousin Mark quietly turned off the grill. My mother spoke before I could. "Frank, stop." But he didn't. "I did a test," he said. "Years ago." I felt something cold move through me. "A test for what?" He shrugged like it was obvious. "You were born during a rough patch. Your mother and I were separated for a few months. You never did the math." The world narrowed to just his voice. "I'm not your biological father, Julia." Someone behind me dropped a fork. I couldn't even turn to see who. Daniel said my name once quietly, but I couldn't respond. My mother stepped closer to him. "That is not how it happened." He ignored her. "I found out when you were 16. I kept it to myself. Raised you anyway. Paid for everything. College. The wedding I didn't agree with." He looked around like he expected applause. "And now you stand here judging me for asking questions about blood." Emma squeezed my hand tighter. I forced myself to kneel so I was eye level with her. "Go inside and play with Ava," I told her. My voice came out steady, which surprised me. "I'll be there in a minute." She didn't argue. She just looked confused and walked toward the house with my aunt. When I stood back up, my legs felt unfamiliar. "You're lying," I said. My mother shook her head. "He did a test without telling me. A cheap online kit." He was convinced. My father cut in. "It wasn't cheap." She ignored him. "He sent it in behind my back. When the results came, he refused to show me the paperwork. Just said the numbers didn't match. I looked at him. You let me believe you were my father for 28 years. I am your father, he snapped. In every way that counts. Except the one you've been screaming about all afternoon, Daniel said. My father pointed at him. This is exactly what I didn't want. You turning her against her own blood. Daniel didn't move. You just told her she isn't your blood. Silence again. My mother took a breath. Julia, there's something else. I almost laughed. How could there be more? He didn't just test you, she said. He tested Emma. The words hit harder than anything before. I stared at my father. You took my daughter's DNA? He didn't look ashamed. I had to know, he said. If patterns repeat. Everything inside me shifted. The cookout, the food, the normalcy of 10 minutes ago felt unreal. You had no right, I said. She's my granddaughter. You just said she might not be. He slammed his hand on the table again. Because I don't trust him. Daniel took a step forward. You don't get to drag my daughter into your paranoia. My mother looked at me and I saw something I had never seen before. Not fear. Not exhaustion. Resolve. Julia, she said quietly, he's leaving something out. My father's jaw tightened. He knows exactly who your biological father is. The air felt thick like a storm was about to break but couldn't decide how. I stared at my mother. You know who my biological father is. She nodded once. My father stepped back from the table. This is unnecessary. No, she said. It's overdue. Daniel came to stand beside me. He didn't touch me but I could feel him there. My mother looked straight at me. His name is Michael Reyes. The name meant nothing at first. Then it clicked in pieces. Daniel's last name. I felt my stomach drop in a completely different way. That's a common name, I said automatically. There are a million. It's his father, my mother said. Daniel froze. Hi, Dad, he asked. My father let out a short, humorless laugh. Now you see the problem. Everything started rearranging itself in my head. Daniel's father had died when Daniel was a teenager. A heart attack. He didn't talk about him much, just that he had worked construction and was barely home. You're saying, Daniel said slowly, that my father, and you? My mother didn't look away. Before I married Frank, I dated Michael. We were serious. It ended badly. I found out I was pregnant after he left the state for work. I didn't know how to reach him. My father cut in. You told me the baby was mine. I believed it was, she said. The timelines were close. I chose to move forward. He scoffed. Convenient. I felt dizzy. So you're telling me that Daniel and I... No, my mother said quickly. You are not related. She looked between us. Michael is Daniel's father. But Daniel and you do not share a parent. My brain struggled to keep up. But if Michael is my biological father... Daniel finished the sentence. Then you and I share a father. Silence. My mother closed her eyes for a second. Yes. The world tilted. I heard someone whisper, "Oh my God," behind us. Daniel stepped back like he had been physically pushed. That's not possible, he said. My dad was married to my mom the entire time. He wasn't, my mother said. They were separated for almost a year. That's when we were together. My father spread his hands. This is what I've been trying to prevent. You married your own half-brother. My ears rang. I couldn't tell if I was breathing. Daniel looked at me like he was trying to see something different in my face. Something that would prove this wasn't real. This is insane, he said. We would have known. Someone would have said something. My mother didn't know, my mom said. Michael never told her about me. And when he went back, he pretended it never happened. I grabbed the edge of the table to steady myself. Emma was inside the house. My daughter. Our daughter. A thought pushed through the panic. You said you tested Emma, I said to my father. Yes. And? He hesitated for the first time all afternoon. The results showed markers that matched mine. I blinked. That makes no sense. You just said you're not my biological father. He swallowed. That's because, my mother said quietly, he is. I looked at my mother, then at my father, waiting for someone to admit this was some kind of sick joke. He is what? I said. He is your biological father, my mother answered. My father's face changed completely. Don't twist this. You twisted it the moment you mailed off that test, she said. I felt like I was standing in the middle of a maze that kept rearranging itself. You just said Michael Reyes was my biological father, I said. Now you're saying it's him. My mother nodded slowly. Because that's what the original hospital paperwork said. Frank is your father. I stared at my father. Then what was the test? He didn't answer. Frank, she said. Tell her. He dragged a hand across his face. The test said there was a low probability. How low? Daniel asked. 9%. Daniel frowned. 9% isn't zero. It's not 50 either, my father snapped. My mother looked at me. He ordered a cheap kit online. It flagged something called atypical markers. Instead of getting a proper clinical test, he decided it was proof. I saw the numbers, my father insisted. It didn't look right. So you rewrote our lives based on something you didn't understand, she said. He didn't deny it. I felt anger rising now, cutting through the confusion. You spent years treating Daniel like he didn't belong. Treating Emma like she was suspicious. Because of a 9% result you didn't even verify. He opened his mouth then closed it. And Michael Reyes, I said. Why bring him into this? My mother exhaled. Because when Frank confronted me with the test results he accused me of cheating. I reminded him that we had been separated back then. I mentioned Michael. I said if there was any chance it would have been him. My father shook his head. You said it like you were unsure. I was unsure because you were yelling at me, she said. The pieces started lining up in a new, uglier way. You didn't know, I said to her. You never actually confirmed anything with Michael. No, she said. I never contacted him. By then he had reconciled with his wife. I didn't want to destroy another family over Frank's paranoia. Daniel let out a breath I hadn't realized he'd been holding. So there's no evidence that Julia and I are related, he said. No, my mother said. There isn't. My father looked around at everyone watching. You're all missing the point. Blood matters. Doubt matters. You don't just ignore it. You created it, I said. He looked at me like I had betrayed him. I raised you, he said. I provided for you. And this is the thanks I get. That's not how this works, Daniel said. You don't get to invent a crisis and then demand gratitude. I thought about every birthday where my father barely acknowledged Daniel. Every holiday where he made comments about lineage and legacy. Every time he suggested that Emma didn't resemble us enough. You tested my daughter, I said. Without my permission. He didn't apologize. I had to protect this family. You were the only one attacking it, my mother said. The yard didn't feel like our backyard anymore. It felt like a courtroom and the verdict was obvious. My mother straightened her shoulders. I'm done, Frank. He laughed like she had made a joke. You're done with what? With you. The word hung there, simple and final. I have spent 32 years defending you, she said. Explaining you. Excusing you. Today you tried to humiliate our daughter and question our granddaughter in front of everyone. I won't do this anymore. He looked genuinely stunned. You're being dramatic. No, she said. I'm being clear. I looked at her and realized something. She wasn't shaking. She wasn't asking. She had already decided. And for the first time in my life I saw my father without the shadow he always cast. He wasn't powerful. He was just a man who needed control. And he was losing it. My father looked around the yard like he expected someone to back him up. My uncle stared at his shoes. My aunt had already disappeared inside with the kids. You're not serious, he said to my mother. Over a misunderstanding. This wasn't one misunderstanding, she said. This was years. He turned to me. Julia, tell her she's overreacting. I surprised myself by answering immediately. She's not. That was the moment something shifted for him. Not rage. Not denial. Just a crack. You'd throw away your own father, he said. I didn't throw you away, I replied. You've been pushing us out for years. Daniel finally spoke again. You didn't want us to get married. You barely came to the hospital when Emma was born. You've questioned her existence since she could walk. My father looked at him like he was invisible. This is about legacy, he said. About certainty. A man deserves that. And what does a child deserve? My mother asked. When her father decides she might not be his. He didn't answer. I thought back to being 16, coming home with an A in calculus and him asking why it wasn't an A+. To him refusing to help pay for my apartment unless I chose the major he preferred. To the way he introduced Daniel at our engagement party as the young man Julia insists on marrying. It had never been about blood. It had always been about obedience. You wanted control, I said. When I didn't choose the career you picked, you said I was ungrateful. When I chose Daniel, you said I was naive. When I had Emma, you said we should confirm. He opened his mouth to argue, but there was nothing left that sounded reasonable. My mother walked toward the house. I'm packing a bag. He stared at her. For what? For tonight, she said. And probably longer. He laughed again, but it sounded thin. You don't even have anywhere to go. I do, I said. He looked at me like he had misheard. You're not moving her into that apartment. It's our house, Daniel corrected him. And yes, she is welcome. My father's jaw tightened. So that's it. You're all turning on me. No, my mother said from the doorway. We're stepping away. There was a difference and we all knew it. He looked at me one last time. After everything I've done. I held his gaze. Love isn't a ledger. For a second I thought he might say something real. Something honest. Instead he said, you'll regret this. I didn't answer. Daniel went inside to check on Emma. I followed him a minute later. My mother was in the guest room folding clothes into a small suitcase. She wasn't crying. She looked lighter. Are you sure? I asked her quietly. Yes, she said. I should have been sure years ago. In the living room, Emma was building a tower out of plastic cups with Daniel. She looked up at me and smiled like nothing had happened. That was the moment I knew we were making the right choice. Outside, my father was still standing by the table. Oh no. The food untouched. The grill cold. For the first time, no one was managing his mood. No one was smoothing his words. He looked smaller than I had ever seen him. While everyone was eating, my father said loudly, blood matters. It always has. The yard went silent. My daughter Emma pressed against my leg. My mom put her glass down and said, Frank, not today. He slammed his hand on the table. He has never liked my husband Daniel. When I married him, my father told me I was making a mistake. When Emma was born, he hinted we should confirm things. He never said it directly, just enough to make it clear he did not see her as fully ours. That day he finally said it in front of everyone. A man should know where his children come from, he said, staring at Daniel. My mom stood up and told him to stop. He didn't. He said he had done a DNA test on me years ago and wasn't sure I was even his. Then he admitted he had secretly tested Emma too. I felt something break in me. My mom shocked all of us when she said the test meant nothing. It was some cheap kit he never verified. He had built years of suspicion on numbers he barely understood. Then she said the real problem wasn't blood. It was control. He couldn't handle that I married someone he didn't choose. He tried to make it about legacy. About certainty. I told him love is not a ledger. That was the turning point. My mom packed a bag that night and came home with us. A month later she filed for divorce. He sent angry messages but never once apologized. He ended up alone in the house he tried so hard to control. We ended up together. Peaceful. The lesson I learned is simple. You do not tolerate emotional abuse just because it comes from a parent. Respect is not automatic. And sometimes walking away is the only way to protect your family.